I was a cross-country truck driver. Believe the myth. On a dark desert highway. Wait. That sounds like that old Eagles song. Let me rephrase that. While driving my rig through the desert late at night, trying to get back to the yard. There. That's better. Anyway, that's what we call the place where all the tractor trailers are kept. The yard. I saw something that terrified me, deep into the belly of my soul. I always thought it was a myth, a legend, something that truckers told themselves to keep themselves awake. But I was wrong. You see, was, a cross-country truck driver for the Remington Trucking Company, based out of a very popular city in California. I'm not married. I don't have any kids. So why not, right? I mean, I had everything I needed in my sleeper cab: a bed, a microwave, a mini fridge, a portable DVD player, and a coffee pot. I could wash clothes, get a shower, and get some real food at a truck stop, and there were always lot lizards hanging around for any other needs, so to speak. Don't judge. Besides, cross-country truck drivers make a lot of money. Anyway, you don't really care about that. You see, I grew up in Camp Springs, Maryland, and every time my parents and I would go visit my aunt and uncle and their family in New Jersey, my father would always take exit 7A on the Jersey Turnpike. You know, the truck route. He would ride that thing all the way down to exit 15, where it ends, and merges back into the turnpike itself. He claimed it was faster. That's how I became infatuated with 18-wheelers. It scared the crap out of my mom sometimes, but she'd just close her eyes and try to sleep through it. I, on the other hand, loved it. Anyway, when I graduated high school, I knew I wanted to be a truck driver. So, I saved some money from my cashier job at Barnaby's and enrolled at a local truck driving school. I completed the 6-week course and got my CDL. The school helped me find a job at the Remington Trucking Company. It was all the way across the country, but it was a job, and I've been here ever since. Anyway, I packed my stuff, said bye to my parents, got in my car, and headed for sunny California. I worked here for a couple years, drove their trucks, slept in the cab when I was on the road, slept in the shop when I was not, saved some money, and eventually bought my own rig, a used neon green Kenworth W900. I loved that rig. Well, that's enough about me. Let me tell you what happened. Now, what I'm about to tell you is something that I have never told anyone before, well, except my therapist. I was heading home, after delivering a load of tables, chairs, and sitting booths to a bar in Florida. Some guy named John was remodeling the place. Anyway, I got on Route 66 in Albuquerque, and began my final stretch home. It was about 2:30 in the morning. It was a beautiful night out that night. The full moon shining down on the road, not another vehicle in sight, just me and the white lines. I rolled the windows down, letting in the cool night desert air. I turned on the radio, and tuned it to KIOT, Coyote 102.5 Classic Rock. They were actually playing some decent songs that night. I drove down the road, rocking out, enjoying the trip, for about an hour and a half. The radio station then began to fade, so I just turned it off. I kept the windows down, and just rolled on. The only sound was the engine humming, and the wheels whining on the road, and nothing to look at, but the white lines. Now, I'm not sure if you know about what's called white line fever. If you do, then great. If you don't, then let me explain. It's basically highway hypnosis. It can happen to anyone, especially when you're driving at night. That's when the lines on the road going by so quickly, in a flashing pattern, hypnotize you, so you have no recollection of driving, or anything that happened while you were in that altered state. No, I'm serious. Look it up. Anyway, I caught the fever. The last thing I remember was turning off the radio, and suddenly I was sitting at a truck stop, about 100 miles away from where I last remembered being. I blinked my eyes, and shook my head. I need coffee, I told myself. I rolled the windows up, shut off the truck, and went inside. I got the largest cup of coffee they had, added cream and sugar, just how I like it, paid for it, and then went back out to my truck. I got in the truck, took a drink of the coffee, put the cup in the holder, put my seat belt on, company rules and all, started the truck, wiped my eyes, put the truck in gear, and rolled out. I got back on the road and continued driving, drinking as much coffee as I possibly could, to try and stay awake. Now, as we all know, coffee is full of caffeine, which helps keep us awake. But, did you know that too much caffeine will cause it to counteract itself, and have the total opposite effect? Well, after about 10 minutes of pounding back that coffee, my eyes began to feel heavy. Wake up, Mike. Fight through it. You can make it, I told myself. But I was wrong, again. As each mile marker passed, my eyes became heavier and heavier. I felt myself start to doze off. I shook my head, to snap myself out of it, and reached for my coffee cup. In my sleepy state, I reached, but couldn't feel the cup. I took my eyes off the road for just a second, seeing the cup, and reaching for it. I turned my hazy eyes back to the road, and that was when I saw it. The black dog. As I rolled down Route 66, heading west to California, eyes heavy, barely able to stay awake, my headlights beaming out into the darkness that stood before me. It appeared, out of nowhere. Its eyes were blood red, its teeth were sharp and shiny, its coat was as black as the devil's soul, and its face was so hideous that I can't even describe it. That image will forever be burned into my subconscious mind. My headlights shined upon it, as it ran, full speed, down the center of the lane, directly toward the front of my truck. Holy shit, I screamed, as I hit the brakes, and whipped the cab hard to the right. My front passenger steer tire then went off the side of the road, falling a few inches onto the grass, and heading straight for a ditch. My rear drive wheels were next to follow. In my panicked state, I tried correcting the turn by whipping the cab hard to the left. I thought I was successful until momentum and inertia took over, causing the trailer to slam hard into the driver's side rear drive tires, causing the cab to slide diagonally down the road. I then felt the entire truck start to flip over on its side. I said a little prayer, put my hands over my eyes, and let whatever was going to happen. I screamed as the truck went over, and slammed hard on the ground, flinging me around like a rag doll. Thank God I was wearing my seatbelt. I don't even want to think about what would have happened if I hadn't been wearing it. Always wear your seatbelt. Anyway, the truck then slid about 30 yards, but never went into the ditch. It almost did, but thankfully, it did not. The sound of glass breaking, grinding metal filled the air, as well as thick gray smoke, and the smell of oil and other fluids from the truck's engine. Luckily, the gas tank was not damaged in the crash. When it was over, I just laid there, suspended almost upside down, in the air, still in my seatbelt. Thankful to still be alive, I reached up, grabbed the oh shit bar, and unlocked my seatbelt. My legs hit the gear shift, as my body fell. I maneuvered my legs off of it, still holding onto the bar, and stood on top of the broken glass from the passenger side window, letting go of the bar. Now, what happened next completely terrified me. I was about to call dispatch, when I heard it. Now, I've heard other truckers talk about seeing the black dog, and the wreck that followed. But I never heard anything like what happened to me. Maybe they left this part out, I don't know. Because this was totally fucked up. As I stood there, I began to hear a low growling sound that intensified with every passing second, until it was almost at a deafening tone. I then heard a loud thud, followed by scratching on the driver's side door, right above me. I'm glad I rolled the windows up when I left the truck stop, I thought, as that was the only window not cracked or broken. I saw bright red lights shoot across the window. At first, I thought they were lights, but they were not. What the fuck is that? I said, followed by another loud thud on the ground. Now, for some reason, I turned and looked out the windshield, which was severely cracked, and saw two bright red eyes staring directly at me, through the cracked windshield. This thing was mere inches away from me. Its face then came into focus, its snout was pulsating, as it opened its mouth, revealing row after row of immensely white teeth. No, not teeth. Fangs. It was drooling and foaming at the mouth. I screamed, and jumped between the driver's seat and the passenger seat into the sleeper, which was totally destroyed by the way. My shoulder landing hard on the edge of the mini fridge. I thought I broke it. I screamed out in pain. I grabbed my shoulder, and sat down on the top of my now broken microwave. I hunched over as far as I could, and ducked my head down, so I couldn't be seen. The dog then barked the most loudest, and most demonic, evil bark that I've ever heard. Worse than those evil dogs in that 80s horror movie Devil Dogs. No, I'm not a very religious man. I mean, I believe in God, carry a Bible with me on long trips, and all that good stuff. But, I don't go to church, and I've never even read the Bible. But, at that moment in time, I wished I did. Anyway, I saw the Bible amidst all the rubble. I picked it up, held it close to my chest, and prayed, and prayed, and prayed for this thing to go away. It did not go away. Periodically, I would stick my head up above the side of the passenger seat, and see it standing there, growling and barking, throughout the next 3.5 hours. Now, as I said before, I never told anyone this story, besides my therapist, well, and a guy named Rooster. But more about him later. Anyway, you see, I had been having night terrors because of it. I would wake up screaming, in the middle of the night, about 3 to 4 times a week. It traumatized me so much that I stopped driving at night, in fear of seeing that dog. I knew I needed help. So, I called a therapist. I told her the story, and told her about my night terrors. She diagnosed me with PTSD, and prescribed me Zoloft, once a day. I take it at night, since it makes me drowsy. Anyway, it helps a little bit, I don't wake up screaming half as much. She also suggested that instead of keeping the whole traumatic experience bottled up inside of me, that I should tell as many people as I possibly could what happened. So that's what I'm doing here. Anyway, back to the story. Like I was saying, the dog stood there for 3.5 hours. Suddenly, I heard the sound of something heavy hitting the glass. I stuck my head above the seat, one last time, to see the dog rush toward the glass, hitting its head hard against it, cracking it a little more. It stepped back, let out an ear-piercing growl, its eyes glowing brighter, as it charged the glass once again, this time breaking through it. Pieces of glass shot everywhere. I screamed, as I fell back to my sitting position, held the Bible close, and began reciting the Lord's Prayer. I was completely scared shitless. I then saw its head rise above the passenger seat, and stare directly at me, eyes glowing, fangs showing, and mouth foaming. It snarled, drew back, and was just about to pounce on me, when it let out this ear-piercing shriek of pain, and began shaking violently. Thick gray smoke then began pouring out of its eye sockets, its ears, and its mouth. I screamed again. As I did, I saw the dog explode into a cloud of thick gray smoke, and disappear into thin air. I cleared the smoke with my hand, coughed a little, only to realize that the sun was beginning to rise. Sunlight must kill this thing, I thought. I had never been so glad to see the sunrise in my life. The dog was gone. What the fuck, I said, completely exhausted. I took a deep breath, as my fear began to subside. I sat the Bible on the microwave next to me, and pulled out my cell phone. I then called dispatch. I gave them my location, told them I flipped my truck, and how long I had been out there. I didn't tell them what really happened. Dispatch said they would send out a recovery rotator truck, and a heavy-duty tow truck. I thanked them, and ended the conversation, putting my phone back in my pocket. I then took a deep breath, slowly crept over the passenger seat, reached up, and grabbed the CB. I pressed the button and said, "Breaker 19. This is Vanilla Mike. I am 1034, in need of assistance. Anyone got their ears on out there, come back," hoping it still worked. Shortly after I put that out on the radio, I got a response. "Yeah, Vanilla Mike, this is Red Rooster. I hear you're 1034. What's your 20? I then gave him my location. That's what 20 means in trucker lingo. Anyway, about 30 minutes went by, when I heard the sound of air brakes. I stood up on the side of the seat, and looked out the driver's side window, to see a red 18-wheeler stopped on the shoulder of the road, right behind my truck. I then climbed out of the window, maneuvered over to the hood, slid down it to the ground below, walked around the front of my truck, and began walking over to the red truck. A long red-haired older gentleman climbed out of the cab, met me halfway, and shook my hand. We introduced ourselves to each other. He reminded me of Willie Nelson, wearing a cowboy hat, and a pair of cowboy boots. Anyway, he looked at my truck, then asked what happened. I told him. He said, "Yup. I seen that black sumbitch back in 73, dead of night, came out of nowhere, jackknifed my rig, almost lost my load, and my life. Mean, ugly little sucker. It woke me the hell up though." "You alright?" he asked. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just a little shaken up," I answered. My shoulder was killing me. Anyway, he then invited me to sit in his truck, and said he would wait with me until the recovery truck arrived. We talked for about 2 hours, about everything under the sun, drinking coffee, telling jokes, and laughing. He had his own coffee maker. Anyway, the recovery truck, and the tow truck finally arrived. It was about 10:30 at that point. It took them 4.5 hours to get my truck upright. The cops had to shut down the westbound lane to do so, and they gave me a ticket for inattentive driving. I just paid it. The judge wouldn't have believed me anyway. Now, once my truck was back upright, and I secured a ride home from the tow truck driver, I said goodbye to Rooster. He climbed in his truck, hit the horn a couple times, and just rolled on. He was a good man. I hope our paths cross again one day, under better circumstances of course. Anyway, I then took a look at the damage. It was massive. I was lucky to be alive. If I would have went left, and fell on the driver's side, I would have surely died. That's it. I'm done, I told myself. Once was enough for me. I never stepped foot in a rig ever again. The owner of the trucking company was nice enough to have the truck towed back to the shop, at his expense. I signed it over to him, and he put it, damaged and all, in the side yard of the shop, with a sign across the windshield that reads, "Believe the myth." Now, even though I don't drive or ride in a truck anymore, I still work here. I am now in charge of dispatch. The old dispatcher took my job. Good luck to him. Anyway, it pays a lot less money, but I'm okay with that. I don't have to worry about seeing that damn dog anymore. Now, I assign drivers their loads, provide mapping information, ensure the product is loaded properly, as well as many other things. I rent a room at the flop house down the street. The room is about as big as my sleeper cab was, maybe a little bigger. There's a bed, a dresser, a lamp, and a rolling clothes rack like you see in laundromats in the corner. I had to buy a new mini fridge, a new microwave, and a new coffee pot, as they were all damaged in the crash. I also bought a small flat-screen TV, and a DVD player. The Flophouse don't have cable. Anyway, there's a shared bathroom with 3 showers, side by side, at the end of the hall, and a couple coin-operated washers and dryers downstairs. It's really not that bad. I don't mess with lot lizards anymore. No. I've got a real girlfriend now. Her name is Natasha. I met her at Chelsea's restaurant. My shoulder is doing fine, it was just badly bruised. Now, in closing, I would just like to say to any of you truckers out there, if you feel your eyes getting heavy, and it's hard to focus on the road, please, promise me that you'll stop. Pull over on the side of the road, stop at a gas station, stop somewhere, because the black dog is no myth. It's no legend. No, that dog is real. I've seen it. And it's got one hell of a bite.